my little yarnivores and spiderettes and arachnids. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I'm going to show you how to do a different kind of bind off. Now, I'm going to show you first how we do our typical bind off, and then I'm going to show you a super stretchy bind off, which I think is actually quite nice, very easy to do, and it gives you a bit more stretch to your bind off edge, which can be rather tricky. Now, when doing the bind off, if it is really, really tight, it's going to distort your piece. And if you need that elasticity, well, that's kind of limiting, isn't it? So I'm going to show you how we do the, normal. I'm always using quotation marks. I know, air quotes. We're going to do the normal bind off first, and then I'm going to show you the super stretchy bind off, and you will be able to see if it's something that you want to give a go for your next project. Now, for both of these swatches, by the way, I was using Red Heart Super Saver, not sponsored, and I'm using the same size needle, so I'm using the same yarn and the same needles. These are my Takumi double pointed needles, size 10. So I'm using the same everything. The only thing different between the two is the color. Alrighty? So that being said, let's get started. Alrighty, so for the quote-unquote normal bind off, which is the one that I learned initially, after you finish your piece, going to knit the first 2 stitches just as you normally would, just 2 knits, and then you pass that first stitch over the second stitch and off of the needle. And I can't tell you how terrified I used to be doing this when I first started knitting. I'm like, I'm gonna mess up. Well, if you're not familiar with binding off, I would suggest do a small swatch first, and to practice with, and then go in for your final project. So after doing that, let me just backtrack here just a smidge. So after doing that, slipping the stitch over the stitch, then you knit the next stitch. And then you slip that first stitch off over the needle, just like you did before. So slipping underneath there, and then passing that loop over. Be very careful not to lose your other loop. There you go, and off. Now, I've seen and read many, many people say, well, you should use a size needle bigger for when you do your bind off so that it is nice and loose. Well, you might not have, a size of needles bigger, So when I saw that there's a super stretchy bind off, I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued. I want to try it. And moreover, I want to show you. So I'm just doing the exact same thing all the way across. Just knit a stitch and then pass the previous one over and off. And for this particular technique, I still have, I admit, a bit of a death grip. So my bind off edges tend to be, well, snug. There we go. And then 2 more. There we go. And then 1 more. And then pass that loop up and over and off. And then you have this 1 loop, which then you would cut your tail of yarn and then pull out the loop. And then there you go. So what's the verdict? Well, it's not puckered in. It's got a little bit of a give to it. But we shall see with the next bind off if it actually has more give. All right, so round two. Alrighty, so now for the super stretchy bind off, going to start by knitting the first 2 stitches, again, just as normal. And it is essentially the same sort of technique, but with a slight difference. So after knitting the first 2 stitches, you then have, well, essentially you have 2 options. You can slip the stitches back onto the left needle, being sure not to twist them, perhaps a bit more gracefully than I'm doing right now. There we go. So I slip them back on, okay, and then going to knit those 2 stitches together through the back loops, or there's another way that you could do it. So I'm going to slip them back, or the method that I actually prefer doing is going through the front of both of those loops as if you were going to slip as if to purl. And the thing is that you are knitting through the back loop in the same token. So knitting these 2 together through the back loop, and then pull up that loop like so, and then off with those 2. And then knit the next stitch. So you've got 2 stitches again. So again, insert your needle through the front of both of those stitches, and then knit these 2 stitches together. There we go. And then knit the next one. And then insert your needle. There we go. My stitches are a little bit tight, excuse me. And then knit these 2 together. There we go. And then knit the next stitch. And then knit these 2 together. And then knit the next one. And then knit these 2 together. Just a couple more, and then we will do a compare and contrast between this one and the swatch that we just did before. Okay, knit the next one. I tell you, it's a lot easier to crochet on camera than it is to knit because you have these needles flippy floppy. All right. Bit tight. All right, there we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. And then these last 2. So I got this last stitch, knit that stitch, and then go through both loops and knit these 2 together. And boom. We got this. All right. And for the reveal. Alrighty, so we have our 2 contenders. Now for the first one, it's got a bit of a give, I mean, it's definitely holding its own, It's not puckering the piece, even though I have a death grip. And then number 2, moment of truth. Definitely has a bit more give. Yeah, you can definitely see I'm pulling on them with the same amount of chutzpah, same amount of tension. And let's put them next to each other. Line up the pieces. See that the top one has a little bit more. See, this one can stretch further. Yeah, a bit. Yeah. So, that being said, it does have a bit more give to it. Now, I was working on a piece, and whoa, I got stuff falling over here. My goodness. I was working on a piece, and I did do the bind off. And this is the bind off edge. And it does have quite a bit of give to it. Now with this, I was using larger needles. In fact, for this, I was using, this was Pound of Love, and they were, let me see, size 11 needles. So it's nice and open and meshy. And you have quite a bit of stretch to it. So would I recommend this? Yeah, I would say so. It does take, like everything else, it does take a little bit of practice. And if you are going to, like I said, do this for your project that you finished up, I would say practice, definitely practice on a little sample swatch like I did here before going for, the whole enchilada and doing it on your finished piece, just so that you get used to the mechanics. Okay. I always suggest practice, practice, practice before going in for the kill. All right. So, with that being said, you know, a little compare and contrast. I hope you like this little tutorial. And, if you did, give a little thumbs up button down below. I appreciate your appreciation, and I do try to post videos as often as I can, whether it's crocheting, knitting, audiobook narration, or please do visit my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary. So until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.